The first time I met Princess Aelira of the Varelian Empire, I was holding a wrench and standing ankle-deep in coolant. That probably wasn't how most humans imagined meeting alien royalty. The Aurora station floated in orbit around the pale blue gas giant Tethra. It was a neutral trading hub where dozens of species passed through every week. Miners, diplomats, smugglers, and the occasional pirate pretending to be a tourist. And people like me. My name is Daniel Carter. Human. Maintenance engineer. My job was simple. Keep the station alive. If oxygen pumps failed, I fixed them. If gravity stabilizers malfunctioned, I recalibrated them. If someone's experimental alien technology exploded in a corridor, which happened more often than you'd think, I was the one called to clean up the mess. It was an ordinary shift when everything changed. The girl in the corridor. I was repairing a leaking coolant line in Sector C when I heard footsteps behind me. Not the heavy stomp of a cargo worker. Not the clicking claws of the insectoid traders. These were light, careful. When I turned around, I froze. A woman stood in the corridor. She was tall, taller than most humans, with smooth silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the station lights. Long white hair flowed down her back like liquid moonlight, and faint glowing patterns traced across her temples. Alien. But not just any alien. I'd seen Varelians before on the station, rare visitors from a powerful empire, but they usually traveled with security teams and wore formal armor. This woman wore a simple cloak, and she looked nervous. I said slowly, lowering my wrench. Can I help you? She studied me with large violet eyes. You are human, she said softly. Last time I checked. She stepped closer. My name is Aelira. I wiped my hands on my uniform. Daniel. Station engineer. She glanced at the leaking pipe behind me. You repair machines? Pretty much my entire existence. Her expression brightened with curiosity. In my people's culture, engineers are highly respected. On this station, I said, we're just the guys people blame when the toilets stop working. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed. It was soft and musical, echoing gently down the corridor. And I remember thinking one thing very clearly. This is the most beautiful alien I've ever seen. The secret princess. Over the next few days, Aelira kept appearing around the station. At first, I assumed she was just another traveler passing through. But she asked strange questions. Not about trade routes or starship fuel like most visitors. Instead, she asked about humans. What is marriage like in your culture? Why do humans smile so often? Why do you repair things instead of replacing them? I answered as best I could while working. She watched me fix gravity plates. She followed me through maintenance tunnels. She even helped hold tools when I replaced a plasma conduit. You enjoy this, she said once. Enjoy what? Helping others. I shrugged. Someone has to keep this place from falling apart. She watched me for a long moment. You're strange, Daniel. Humans get that a lot. The accident. Everything went wrong a week later. Aurora Station was hosting a diplomatic convoy from the Varelian Empire. And suddenly the station's security chief stormed into my workshop. Carter, what did I break this time? You didn't break anything, he said grimly. But you might be in serious trouble. My stomach dropped. Why? He activated a holo display. The image showed Aelira standing beside a massive alien warship, surrounded by armored guards. And kneeling before her were dozens of Varelian soldiers. The security chief stared at me. Do you know who that is? I swallowed. Aelira? That, he said slowly, is Princess Aelira, daughter of the Varelian Queen, heir to one of the most powerful empires in this galaxy. My brain stopped working. You're kidding. I wish I were. Suddenly, Every conversation we'd had replayed in my mind. Her curiosity, her secrecy, the way she avoided crowded areas. "Oh no," I whispered. "What?" "She's been hanging out in maintenance tunnels with me." The chief stared. Why would a princess do that? I thought she was a tourist. Before he could respond, the station alarm sounded. A thunderous voice echoed through every corridor. "Bring me the human. The queen arrives." The docking bay doors opened with a metallic roar. A massive Varelian warship floated outside, sleek, black, and terrifying. Thousands of soldiers poured onto the station. At their center stood a towering figure clad in living armor that shimmered like liquid steel. The Varelian queen, Queen Thulrissa. Her eyes glowed like burning stars. And beside her stood Aelira. She looked relieved when she saw me. The queen did not. Her voice shook the entire docking bay. "Why is my daughter calling you her husband?" Every single person in the bay turned toward me. My brain short-circuited. "Husband." Aelira smiled shyly. "Yes." I nearly fainted. "Wait, what?" "Cultural disaster." The queen stepped closer, her presence terrifying. "You'll explain this immediately, human." I looked at Aelira. She looked perfectly calm. "You told me," she said gently, "that humans marry those they trust." "Yes, but..." "You said marriage means partnership." "Well, yeah, but..." "And you said a husband protects and supports his partner." I groaned. "Oh no." The queen's voice grew colder. "Speak clearly." I rubbed my face. "Okay, so apparently there's been a cultural misunderstanding." Aelira tilted her head. "You said if someone stays beside you, helps you, and shares your life, that is marriage." I said that's part of marriage. "You also said humans sometimes begin relationships with simple promises." I had. During one of our long conversations in the maintenance tunnel. "You asked what a husband does," I said slowly. "So I gave examples." She nodded happily. "And you have done all those things." The queen's eyes narrowed. "What things?" Aelira counted on her fingers. "He protected me from a collapsing conduit." "True." "He shared food with me." "I'd given her a sandwich." "He worked beside me." "She'd handed me tools." "He promised to help me whenever I needed." I winced. The queen stared at me with absolute fury. "So, by our traditions, you claimed my daughter." My jaw dropped. I didn't know it worked like that. The queen's challenge. The docking bay was silent. The queen studied me like a predator evaluating prey. "You're small." "Weak." "A maintenance worker." "Correct on all counts." "And yet, my daughter insists you are her chosen partner." I glanced at Aelira. She smiled proudly. The queen raised one clawed hand. "Among the Varelians, a royal bond cannot be ignored." My heart nearly stopped. "Please tell me that doesn't mean execution." "No." I relaxed slightly. "It means trial." I tensed again. "What kind of trial?" The queen's eyes gleamed. "You will prove whether you are worthy of my daughter." I looked around at the thousands of alien soldiers, then back at my grease-stained uniform. "I fix plumbing." "That will not save you." The unexpected test. I expected combat, or some deadly alien ritual. Instead, the queen brought me to the station's failing power core. Aurora Station had been struggling with energy fluctuations for months. Even our best engineers couldn't solve it. The queen gestured toward the unstable reactor. "If you truly care for my daughter," she said, "save the station she loves." I blinked. That's actually my job. The reactor hummed violently. Energy spikes flashed across the monitors. I walked around the core, studying the readings. Then I frowned. "Wait. What?" the queen asked. "This isn't a reactor failure." The room went quiet. It's a feedback loop in the gravity stabilizers, I said. How can you tell? Because I've fixed this problem before. I grabbed a toolkit. Give me 30 minutes. The Queen folded her arms. You have 10, 20, 15.
Deal.
The human solution. 15 minutes later, the station lights stabilized. The reactor stopped screaming. The energy flow balanced perfectly. I wiped sweat from my forehead. There. The Queen stared at the calm reactor. Her engineers checked the systems. Every reading was perfect. How? One of them whispered. I shrugged. You were trying to solve it like a warship power system. And this is a civilian station. I tapped a panel. All it needed was a manual bypass and a new alignment algorithm. The Queen looked at me slowly. You solved a problem that confused our scientists. Engineers solve problems, I said. That's literally the job. Elira ran forward and hugged me. I knew you could do it. The Queen watched us carefully. Then she sighed. The Queen's decision. The entire docking bay gathered again. Thousands of Varelians waited silently. The Queen stepped forward. This human is not a warrior. I swallowed. He is not a noble.
Fair.
But he protected my daughter, supported her, and solved a problem my own engineers could not. She looked directly at me. You are unexpectedly competent. I'll take that as a compliment. The Queen turned to Elira.
Daughter.
Do you still claim this human? Yes, she said without hesitation. The Queen looked back at me. And you, human, do you accept my daughter? My brain screamed this is insane. But I looked at Elira. She wasn't a princess to me. She was the curious girl who asked questions in maintenance tunnels. The one who laughed at my terrible jokes. The one who held tools while I fixed pipes. I smiled. Yeah. The Queen raised her voice. Then by Varelian law, the entire bay held its breath. The bond is recognized. Cheers erupted from the Varelian soldiers. I stared in disbelief. Wait, does this mean? Elira grabbed my hand. Yes, husband. Oh boy.
Epilogue.
6 months later, I stood on the balcony of a massive alien palace. Still wearing a slightly upgraded engineer uniform. Still holding a wrench. Behind me, Elira laughed. You could command fleets now, she said. You're married to a princess. I tightened a bolt on a decorative fountain. Do royal engineers get overtime? She wrapped her arms around me. You are impossible. Yet you married me. She smiled. Yes. Across the palace courtyard, Queen Thulrissa watched us. She still didn't entirely trust me, but she did admit one thing. Apparently, the Varelian Empire had never had a chief royal maintenance engineer before. And, according to the Queen, the Empire had never run this smoothly. As for me, I was just a human who fixed things. I just never expected that one day, I'd accidentally fix an alien princess's life too, and somehow end up married to her. All because of a misunderstanding about what a husband was. Honestly, best mistake I ever made. For a few seconds after the Queen announced the bond was recognized, the entire docking bay was chaos. Thousands of Varelian soldiers struck their armored fists against their chests in a booming rhythm that echoed through the station like thunder. To them, the Queen's decision wasn't just approval, it was law. To me, it felt like my life had just been launched out of an airlock. Elira stood beside me, still holding my hand, smiling like the happiest person in the galaxy. Daniel, she said softly. Yeah, you look pale. I just accidentally married an alien princess in front of an army. She tilted her head. Yes. That's a lot for a Tuesday. She laughed again, that same warm, musical laugh I'd first heard in the maintenance corridor. But the Queen hadn't finished speaking. She raised her hand, and the entire bay went silent instantly. However, Queen Thulrissa said slowly, "There is still the matter of tradition." My stomach sank again. Of course there was. There was always a tradition. I raised my hand nervously. "Is this the part where I have to fight someone?" The queen stared at me. "Do you wish to fight someone?" "Absolutely not." "Then no." I exhaled. "Good. Very good." But then she continued. "In Varelian culture, when a royal chooses a partner, the partner must stand before the Imperial Council." That sounded official. "How many people are on this council?" I asked carefully. 7. "That's manageable." 7,000. I blinked. 7,000? The leaders of the Empire's noble houses. My soul quietly left my body. Arrival at the Varelian capital. 3 days later, I stood on the command deck of the Queen's flagship. Outside the viewing window stretched the most breathtaking sight I'd ever seen. The capital world of the Varelian Empire. Varela Prime. Massive silver cities covered entire continents. Towering spires rose above oceans of glowing lights. Enormous orbital rings circled the planet like elegant halos. Ships the size of mountains drifted through space. It was the center of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. And I was here because I fixed a coolant pipe. Alira stepped beside me. "You're quiet. I'm calculating how many ways this could go wrong." "You'll be fine. 7,000 alien nobles are about to judge me." She smiled. "They will only be curious." "That's worse." She gently squeezed my arm. "You underestimate yourself. I'm a station mechanic. You are the man who saved the station. That's because the station had a manual override." She laughed softly. "Humans are very humble. Humans are very aware of when they're in over their heads." The Imperial Council. The Imperial Council chamber was enormous. A circular hall the size of a stadium. Tier upon tier of seats stretched upward, filled with Varelian nobles wearing elaborate armor and flowing ceremonial robes. 7,000 glowing violet eyes turned toward me, standing beside the queen and the princess. I had never felt smaller. The queen's voice echoed across the chamber. "Members of the Imperial Council, my daughter has chosen a partner." A murmur swept through the crowd. "And that partner is human." The murmurs became shocked whispers. One noble stood. "A human? A maintenance worker?" Another rose. "How did such a creature win the princess's bond?" Someone else shouted. "Is this a political alliance?" The queen raised her hand.
No.
Silence fell again. This human saved Aurora Station from catastrophic failure. Some nobles looked impressed. Others looked suspicious. One elderly noble leaned forward. "Skill alone does not make someone worthy of the royal line." The queen turned to me. "Daniel Carter." "Yeah."
Speak.
I stared at the massive crowd. 7,000 alien nobles waiting for my speech. I had absolutely no idea what to say. So, I told the truth. The human speech. "I didn't come here looking for power," I said. "I didn't know Alira was a princess when we met." Some nobles exchanged surprised looks. She showed up in a maintenance corridor and started asking questions. A few of them actually chuckled. I thought she was just curious. I glanced at Alira. She was kind. She listened. She helped me work. I shrugged slightly. And, yeah, I said some things about human relationships that apparently counted as marriage in your culture. More laughter rippled through the chamber. I didn't plan any of this. I looked up at the thousands of watching eyes. But I do care about her. The room grew quiet again. "I may not be a warrior or a noble," I continued, "but I fix things." I gestured toward the queen. "Your engineers couldn't solve the station's power failure." A few nobles shifted uncomfortably. I could. I shrugged again. That's what humans do. We look at problems differently. Silence hung in the air. Then I added one final line. If your empire ever needs someone who isn't afraid to crawl into a broken machine and figure out what went wrong, I'm your guy. The council's decision. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. One noble began clapping. Then another. Then another. Soon thousands of Varelian nobles were striking their armored fists together in approval. The sound filled the entire chamber. Queen Thulrissa looked almost amused. Finally, she raised her hand. The council has spoken. She turned to the nobles. Do you accept the human? A unified roar shook the hall. Yes. I blinked. That went better than expected. Alira grinned. I told you. 6 months later. Life changed quickly after that. Very quickly. For starters, I didn't live on Aurora Station anymore. Now I lived in a massive palace on Varela Prime. But despite the luxury, I refused to stop being an engineer, which led to a strange new title. Chief Royal Maintenance Engineer of the Varelian Empire. Turns out, alien empires have a lot of complicated machines. Palace gravity systems, planetary shield generators, orbital defense grids, ancient technology that had been running for centuries without anyone fully understanding how it worked. And apparently, I was very good at fixing them. The Queen's final words. One evening, Queen Thulrissa summoned me to the palace balcony. She stood overlooking the glowing capital city. You have been surprisingly useful. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. She ignored that. My empire is stronger because of your work. Happy to help. She studied me carefully. You still carry that tool. I looked down. My wrench. Engineers never travel without one. She nodded slowly. Then she said something I never expected to hear. You are not the partner I imagined for my daughter. Yeah, I get that. But she chose well. I smiled slightly. Thanks, Your Majesty. She turned back toward the city lights. Just remember something, human. What's that? If you ever hurt my daughter. I raised both hands immediately. Understood. She actually laughed. Just a little. The real ending. Later that night, I returned to our balcony. Alira was already there, watching the stars. She turned when she heard me. How did the conversation go? Your mother didn't threaten to vaporize me today. That is progress. I sat beside her. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? Choosing a human engineer instead of some powerful alien prince. She looked genuinely confused. Why would I regret that? Well, your life could have been easier. She smiled softly, but it would not have been happier. She rested her head on my shoulder. Besides, you fix everything. Not everything. You fixed my life. I laughed quietly. I think you fixed mine first. We watched the stars in silence. Ships drifted across the sky. The galaxy kept moving. And somehow, a human maintenance worker from a space station had become part of an alien royal family. All because one curious princess walked into a corridor and started asking questions. And because of one misunderstanding about what a husband was. Alira squeezed my hand. Daniel? Yeah. I still think you look very handsome when you hold that wrench. I smiled. Careful. Why? You might accidentally marry me again. She laughed. And somewhere in the palace behind us, I'm pretty sure the queen groaned.